and fast-track yourself through the race with vehicle and asset finance from ABSA. Today, tomorrow, together.
The Limpopo province is the most northernmost province of South Africa, bordering Zimbabwe, Mozambique and Botswana, and is named for its most important river. It is rich in history and heritage. After all, one of the most ancient gold-using civilizations' remnants were discovered here.
The province stretches over a massive 124,000 square kilometers, with the massive Waterberg biosphere, as declared by UNESCO, forming a great backdrop for off-road racing.
Its unique, dry, deciduous forest, challenging landform and hot weather makes it the ideal place to test vehicles and their occupants for the 6th round of the ABSA Off-Road Championship.
And when the 66 teams and their very clean and very ready chariots drove into the capital of Limpopo, Polokwane's Moropo Casino, to set the scene for this epic battle, everyone expected a tough race, and that's exactly what they got.
But luckily for crews and cars, the weathermen cooperated and delivered overcast conditions for the prologue, which was scheduled for a testing yet fast 35 kilometers on Friday.
While the race over 400 k's would take in fast flat roads with a whole host of gullies, washouts, thick riverbed sand, and then the typical bushveld and thorn trees, which limits visibility severely at times.
But if you couple all of that with the typically dry and dusty conditions, it doesn't exactly rain a heck of a lot in this part of the world at this time of the year, then you get the picture.
Well, the full picture in the production car championship looked like this. Nissan's Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford was setting the pace in the defense of their national championship.
Yeah, there's not much of a gap between us and the Ford. So yeah, this is an important race. We're obviously all going to be wanting to do as well as possible, but yeah, we're looking for a good result.
Even more so, Duncan, after your disappointment at Sun City, where you had to drive so hard.
Yeah, you know, we had a problem in qualifying, which put us right at the back. But, you know, we came through from the back to 5th, so we scored some really important points. We didn't lose as much as I was worrying about.
Now, to top it all off, I mean, this is a little strange. You're racing against your boss man.
Yeah, you know, and despite what he says, he's going to be going as hard as he can. So whatever he tells me, I'm not going to believe him, and I'm going to just do the best I can.
Nissan Motorsport manager Glenn Hall was standing in for Ivar Tollefson, another role for the former SA Rally champion.
Again, one that I haven't done for quite a while.
And how long has it been since you've changed a few off-road gears in anger?
Well, I did a short prologue on the desert race, which is the only time I've done anything off-road, in 2004, so it's a good 4 and a bit years ago.
Think all the rally experience you're able to call on will stand you in good stead?
Well, I'm going to need to call on something, so I hope it's still there, still in the memory banks.
And the tactics, as hard as you can go for as long as you can?
Oh no, I can't say that. You know, I've got to be responsible as well. So we'll see how it goes, and really, I've got to bring it home. We've got to win, you know, score some championship points towards winning the manufacturers, and but I'll see how it goes in the beginning of the prologue. If I feel comfortable, then I'll give it some more, and if I frighten myself too much, then we'll just back off.
Clearly a very wise man. Now, Ford were ready to do battle and weren't even pressurized.
I must say today I'm not feeling the pressure too much. Who knows what it'll be like early tomorrow morning before the start. But I think we're very confident in the car that we've got. You know, the range has performed faultlessly all year. We've done a lot of work on the car. All our preparation is 100%. So I'm not feeling too much pressure, no, but really looking forward to it.
Neil, it's one of the shortest prologues ever. Will that change your tactics in any way whatsoever?
Yes, it probably will. I think the biggest problem for me, or not a problem for me, is that the race tomorrow, the main race is that little bit shorter. I prefer a longer, technical, harder race, so with it being a little bit shorter, doesn't give us quite as much time to get into the position we want. So, but in saying that, I know it's a rough race, and we enjoy a rough, tight, technical race, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Toyota's team has been doing the hard graft, and the Castrol Toyota Hilux was ready once more, but were the drivers?
Yeah, absolutely. The guys have put a lot of work in, so let's see how the prologue goes. I think we've got a good package, and there's some exciting things in the pipeline, so we're waiting with anticipation there.
The 35k prologue, it's short, all out as fast as you can?
Yeah, for sure. From our side, the prologue's going to be max attack. It always has been. It's a really enjoyable part of the race for me, which I really enjoy. And yeah, it's pedal to the metal, eh?
Because it's so short, it's a different approach and strategy.
Oh, absolutely. The shorter products always have been a little bit more tricky. You can't afford for any mistakes. But, you know, everybody has the same field. So, I mean, you've got to just go out there and attack, and you've got to try and put that behind you and make sure you do something as clean as possible and as fast as possible.
For the orange and black liveried RFS Motorsport team, their new charge was finally ready, but it took a while.
Yeah, it's a long time waiting. We waited 8 months for the car to be completed, but we had 50 Ks of testing on it since last week, so it's not very much. But we will use this event for more testing. But the car feels fine, and I'm glad we are here.
Who built the car for you?
The car was built, the chassis was built by Achim and Stewart, and the assembling was done by ourselves, RFS Motorsport.
Well, whatever the case, it was ready or not. Here we go. And it was Grenier and his co-driver Chris Birkin who were off and flying at the start.
The victors in the Eastern Cape in April are always quick in the prologue and have won their fair share of those this season. They wanted another one in Limpopo because it means dust-free driving at the head of affairs.
Hall was clearly relishing being behind the wheel again. He and Brit Quinn Evans were exceptionally quick, and the Sasol Nissan Navara was herring along.
Truck star Anthony Taylor and his navigator Robin Houghton were also highly impressive, and the former teenage national champion was quick and effective.
The four-time national off-road champion Hannes Grobler and Johan Moore were themselves in a mean mood, and at the first time check, they were only a shade over 20 seconds off the pace.
Hannes was looking for a second consecutive win here. And at the same time check, Chris Visser and Jalpi Badenhorst in their Castrol Toyota Hilux was 17 seconds behind Grobler and 5th in the SB class.
Woolridge and Scholthammer were literally flying along in the Ford Ranger, and they flew into and out of a ditch earlier, luckily without any major damage.
But they would all have to contend with Force, who was fast, but seemed a little subdued.
The Nissan was certainly not sounding sick, though.
And Arnie, nor was the Rubicon Toyota of husband and wife team George and Sharon Barkhuizen, who were 8th in the SB class in the prologue.
Toyotas took 6 out of the top 10 places rolled as the McLaren XL dealer team with father and son, Hichu and Jaap de Bruin, were 1 minute and 45 seconds behind in 9th.
And Mike Thompson and Brian Haviland rounded out the top 10 with a very clean run in their Feltex Toyota Hilux.
In car now with Kobus van Tonder and Rian Grauper in the Unifreight Ford Ranger. And look at the drop-offs and the loose sand. And listen to the Ranger's engine working overtime.
Wat is bal is op? Rechtszijde is op.
In Class D, the Zamatin brothers, Henry and Maurice, had their Nissan hardbody exactly 40 seconds ahead of the competition. A controlled yet quick run.
But the cars took some heavy punishment.
The chase for second was led by the Raceonic squad, Coetzee Labuskaghni and Johan Gerber in their Nissan.
The dust was hanging thickly over the route as Class E leader Jack Peckham and Lucio Santoro skittered into view.
They were in turn precisely half a minute ahead of Jannie Visser and Joks Leroux, who have brought the team Barbaspan Toyota home 4 out of 5 times already this season.
But the dry riverbeds and thick sand gave the young locals a free joyride. Strafford Vogt and Ben Creer in their Jeep obliged. biggest joy of the day, though, went the way of Cronje and Birken, who were just 5 seconds ahead of the surprise package of the day, Glenn Hall, who led his more fancied employees, Krobler and Force home.
Or maybe they were just being nice to the boss.
Don't you dare tell him that. In the special vehicle class, there was great expectation that the route would suit the so-called space frame cars as the Limpopo races what has been in the past. It's technical and tough. Food for these big monsters with their massive shock absorption systems and large torque engines.
Here the championship race was as open as a golf tournament without Tiger Woods, and just 29 points separated the top four, led by the father and son team of Cully and Quinton Silvold.
Yeah, for sure. The guys it's been very close the whole year, you know. So this race is important, obviously, like all of them. The first aim is to finish, obviously. We have done quite a few changes ourselves. It's the first time we've had the car back to our own workshop in Palabora. So we think we've done a couple of good modifications to the car, so we hope it all works out.
Atang Makhakanene and his co-driver Jeff Minnett were back in their Celicore Group 2008 Porter with its huge 4-litre engine. They were ready to finish this one in Limpopo.
Yes, we are, especially after the DNF of the last race. We can't wait to finish the race this time.
Atang, you haven't driven for a while. Is the old feel coming back again? Getting better?
I think the feel is already back. It's just a matter of sorting out the small issues on the car. Otherwise, our pace is up, and we just hope the problems we had at the last race have been sorted out.
Indeed, everyone was hoping and praying for that, but in off-road racing, it's prevention rather than cure that does the trick. The father and son combination, Nick and Ryan Harper, were exceptionally quick on the prologue route. In fact, faster than everyone.
With defending special champion motorites Evan Hutchinson and Achim Bergman 30 seconds back and battling to keep the gap small.
The dust was incredible as the specials churn it up even more. Century Properties' Mark Corbett and Rudy Balzar were third quickest, a further 11 seconds back.
The second Atlas Copco Porter, that of Gary Berthold and Andre Vermeulen, was effective, but not the usual prologue winner that it's been for the past 2 seasons. And the teams were marking each other closely as Colin Matthews and Alan Smith in the second Century Properties back came steaming by too. Botswana 1000 Desert winner Shamir Bariawa and his co Siegfried Rousseau were just a further 4 seconds back, and had the huge Total Motorsport Porter nicely under control early on. After just 1 kilometer, Nandus Alberts and Audrey Roots in the Rapsa bat. But they wrapped it pretty hard there, and the impact hurt both their backs so badly that they immediately retired. Short day at work, unfortunately. It's gotta hurt. Now in the Class P, the siblings David and Gary White had the Rubicon bat going well, but the pressure was on. Why? Because the two Dons, Thompson and Blakey, were only 16 seconds behind them and pushing hard. Makhakanene and his co-driver Minnett were 7th, almost 2 minutes down, but were impressive with their clean driving. And just behind them, former national champion Terence Marsh and Peter Groenewald in the Regent Racing bat were keeping them in sight, 2 seconds in arrears. And in the smaller class, Class B, the Staffix racing crew of Alistair Stubbs and Mark de Chalane had a slender lead of just 21 seconds at the end of their prologue. Over this outfit, the Rubicon bat with Louw de Bruin and Rudy Brits aboard, they clocked 30 minutes and 14 seconds. But when the watchers were stopped at the line, it was the Harpers who had a huge 30-second lead over the Motorite team. Just 2 minutes covered the top 31 drivers. The standard was very impressive. We continue racing right after this.
Vehicle and Asset Finance from ABSA, going the extra mile to get you financed. Vehicle and Asset Finance from ABSA, going off the beaten track to find solutions.
Over just a 35-kilometer distance, drivers can really fly. But it also means that the mechanics have to do a huge amount of work afterwards. It's check and recheck. And it's replace and, of course, repair. The vehicles have to start off the next day ready for a rather hefty, dusty and tough 400 Ks.
Good. We had a bit of a scare right at the beginning. There was a bit of a dip. We all went and had a look at it, but it didn't look too bad. And we went into it a bit too quick. It shot the car right up in the air, and it's kind of like put me off my rhythm for, I think, the first 2 or 3 Ks. But maybe it wasn't a bad thing because some of the guys rolled and some guys got hurt apparently, so it's okay. We did a fair time. We fifth on the road tomorrow, which is okay. Only a couple of seconds in it, and there's 400 kilometers of racing tomorrow, so I think it's going to be quite a tough one. It's quite a hard terrain, hard on the car, lots of things to catch you out, so type of race we like, so looking forward to tomorrow. Yeah.
Diagnostic readouts were checked one more time, and as the sun set over the Limpopo province, the thorny issues of the next day's racing were uppermost in everyone's minds.
The next morning dawned cool and crisp, but the weather was also expected to be fine for the day's racing. The dust was enemy number one, though.
It's an excellent start to the weekend. I unfortunately had a little bit of trouble in the prologue. I got a bit of dust from my tom set, sort of the last 6 kilometers, which might have cost me about 10 seconds or so. But on the whole, yeah, it's been so far a great event. Let's just hope that it can stay together like this, and let's hope for 1-2 finish for Toyota.
But in the Nissan camp, they were hoping for the same thing. Manager Glenn Hall surprised himself with a great 52nd birthday present.
Well, I got a few frights as well, but yeah, it was nice. It was a good surprise, and we felt we were going well. But of course, I haven't got a championship to look after, and we were a little bit further back on the road, and I think that helped. But nonetheless, yeah, it was good and exciting.
You must have surprised all your other regular drivers.
Yeah, but they were at the front of the field, so it's unfair of me to take the kudos for winning from that position, that's for sure.
The Harpers were very pleased to have set the pace up front, even leaving the production cars in their wake by 14 seconds.
Yes, of course. We're very excited to start first here. It's a good one for Atlas Copco. All we're going to do is go out and have fun and try and keep it in front.
It's been an up and down season so far for you. You need a good result, don't you?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get a good result, but you've got to take a good with the bad. You can't always win, so we're going to give it all our best.
Mark Corbett in the Century Properties bat was third off the line in Class A.
Yeah, we had a relatively good time trial yesterday, qualifying third in class. Got a little bit held up at dust, but I think it's the right place to start today, 6th overall.
Have you been able to finally sort out all the little problems you've had so far this season?
Yeah, we definitely are looking forward to getting a good result out the car. It's been a long year for us with all the teething problems and stuff, but I think the car's finally working now.
Music to a mechanic's ears, and the Atlas Copco bat of the Harpers made sweet music when it hit the road first off.
Cronje and Birkin were just 14 seconds back, just far enough to stay out of the dust.
While Hall and Evans were keen to take their prologue success into the race proper. Well, the old off-road adage is to finish first, you first have to finish, and unfortunately the Harpers had not done that enough in 2008. They only got to the line 3 times and needed a good one here. Out on the road, they certainly looked like they were ready to do that.
Mark Cronje's figure is the same, but for the fact that his first race was a finish. But it was excluded on a technicality.
And if we go in-car, you can tell that this route had the potential to be a car wrecker.
Caution was without doubt the watchword.
Evans were, after the first 10 Ks, still going along ahead of the big names, and the Nissan Motorsport manager must surely have had a little chuckle to himself.
Fancy that, leading Paulson Krobler.
And the rest of them too. Taylor jumped straight from the track to off-road and immediately made an impact. Looking at him here, you can understand why.
The early parts of the route from the Eysterberg Pleasure Resort would follow a circular lap, which meant the teams had to negotiate twice.
With a designated service point at the finish at the Limpopo Casino and Entertainment World, Evan Hutchinson was certainly enjoying it early on, still in second place.
But Corbett had thrown caution to the wind and was chasing hard, sideways at times in his haste.
And then he promptly stalled it.
Twice.
And I can bet you that Balzar was holding on for dear life right there. Crawford too was going very quickly in fourth place.
Fusan Bardenos was starting to ease the Toyota into more speed, and they were ready to pounce on one or two SP cars ahead of them.
Berthold and Vermeulen was one of the teams catching up quickly, and the Nissan Sugarbelt winner looked like he was putting in a strong early run.
With Colin Matthews and Alan Smith, certainly one of the most consistent crews of the 08 season, keeping it quick, but definitely not reckless.
The dust and the drop-offs was already having a huge effect on concentration. And even the best crews can wrong slot every now and then. Luckily, not too much time lost. Woolridge and Schulthammer were, as they always are, very dependable.
Bariawa and Rousseau in the Total Motorsport Porter were also loving the condition. The tougher it becomes, the more Shamir is at home.
With Class B leaders, the Whites in an unbelievable 13th overall and doing some giant killing.
The dust was a massive hurdle to overcome. Visibility in parts that get worn or damaged due to the excessive grinding. Foss and Pitchford driving with the usual calculation.
But maybe not that time.
No. The Ruacon husband and wife team, the Barkhuizens in the Toyota Hilux, were themselves doing a fine job and holding down 8th place.
But guess what? They made the same wrong slot as Matthews and Smith. Obviously, the road book was a little confusing here.
Yes, and a few precious seconds gone right there.
But if you could use the term in off-road, back on track. Makakanane and Minute were having a very good time in their new edition Porter and were still 7th in the specials.
In the production car class, a Flying XL dealer team Toyota crested the hill and charged right towards us. The De Bruins were mowing down the competition in front of them, one at a time.
The Roosts, Don Bailey and Warren Manthe were 10th and had the big back going in the right direction.
And in the SP class, 10th place was held down nicely by Mike Thompson and Brian Haviland in their Toyota.
While Guelpa and Van Tonder's Unifreight Ford had been very trustworthy and had failed to bring them home only once, and that was in their last race at Sun City.
John Moore and Tom Klaassen in their Free Spirit had started off 27th overall, but were also steadily grafting their way up the order.
And Mark Ferguson and Craig Weston, the last of the SP category forwards, were holding station just fine in the 12th place.
Class D has been a huge battle all season, but this time the Zermattens were determined to get her there in one piece. The Ryobi Nissan also looked like it was up for the task.
The Sulwats were strangely off the pace and caught away through the first loop. They still hadn't quite hit their straps.
Certainly not, and the same could be said about Michael Whitehouse and Matthew Carlson. But they always race with one eye on the finish line.
Hendrik Kraai standing in for Father Jan, who was overseas, and his co-driver Tito Puch had gone by one Class B car in front of them, and that got them into second place.
And then in Class E, the pace setter in the front was Visser and Leroux, who had gone by prologue winners Peckham and Santoro. They were cooking.
And we continue with the Limpopo 400's last lap and a half, right after this.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA, going the extra mile. Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA, going off the beaten track to find solutions.
We continue with the 6th round of the ABSA Off-Road Championship in Limpopo. And up front of the specials, there was a change. Nick and Ryan Harper were still chugging away, but had lost time when they stalled in a riverbed.
After the first hour, it was the Harper's teammates Berthold and Vermeulen who had taken the lead, while Corbett and Balzard started into second, relegating the Harpers to third.
Once again, it was shaping up to be an epic battle.
Cronje and Birkin was still going well, even though Taylor had set the fastest time in the first hour of racing in the production car class, while Hall had hit the ditch way too hard and broke a vertebra in the process. Foss and Pitchford were looking for win number 4 of the current series, and they had gone into second spot, while Probler and Moore were menacingly poised.
Mark Ferguson and Craig West gave Ford 2 in the top 10.
Nissans working themselves up the order must have worried the rest of the field massively. Taylor and 5-time production off-road titleist Houghton were having a great run, and the Toyota Challenge was looking right on track for a strong finish, but the designated service point was still a good hour and a half away.
And now one man who really knows how to coax a car into giving its best is the jovial Grobler. He and Moore were quietly working their way up after starting in 7th place overall.
Rolled jovial he may be, but he's also one very determined character, looking for win number 25 in the series since the year 2001.
That's 100 and plenty all the way.
Corbett and Balzar really did seem to have the Century Properties Development Century 1 running well. The growing pains seemed to be behind them. Finally.
Yeah, but no one had yet been able to sneak up to or past Berthold and Vermeulen in the Porter. The turquoise terror was controlling things right from the front.
With Visser and Badenhorst making sure that the Castrol Toyota Hilux was staying on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, Arnie, you mean where it's all possible?
Sort of. The Audi V8 powered bat of Matthews and Smith was arguably having the best run of the specials, and they'd slotted into the top 3.
But now notice the softly approach here by Neil Woolridge on the Ford's accelerator.
It's exactly with that type of steady driving that Neil and Kenny have brought it home in each one of the races so far this year.
That's only 3,200 Ks of racing on it, you know?
Not a long way, really. Reliable is a good word for this crew.
With Boriawa and Rousseau finally also getting their car to be bankable, they have become a very serious threat for the championship. They were holding very little back at this stage.
Foss was also letting it all hang out. The SA chap had dominated the first part of the season, winning 3 out of 4, but was backing a little in Limpopo.
The dust was excessively tough to drive through, leaving little to no visibility, as the XL dealer team found out. Still, they were also making a big surge.
The Barkhuisens adopted their steady-as-she-goes attitude, but they made a big mistake right here. And exacerbated it a little bit more.
On the road to nowhere, Marsh and Groeneveld's Corvette engine Regent Racing Bat had also made a giant move, up from 18th overall after a very dusty start for them.
Meanwhile, George and Sharon were still trying to wiggle their way through an opening that was too small for the Toyota Hilux, while teammates White and White made their way past.
But it meant the other competitors had to find a way around. And they did. Makakanene powerfully around.
But it certainly looked like the end of the road for the Barkhuisens.
The Feltex boys appeared next and were enjoying a very good run on Loop 1 of the Limpopo 400. George needed more height.
Ek dink hierdie rolsbank is bietjie hoog vir die karre, maar vir die bakkies in elk geval. Dan lyk my die radkas op die plat sit gaan. Ons staan hier so. Dink nie ons gaan baie ver.
The realities of off-road racing. It happens in a second, but it meant that all the SPs were moving up a place, including the Unifreight Ford of Fontonda and Guapa, into 10th place, in fact.
As the local radio station Capricorn FM was reporting, it was all happening out there. The Barkhuizen stablemates and Ruacon CEO Peter Ruthven and JD Boshoff came by. Not a pretty sight for the boss.
Moore and Clarkson were making a spirited run, and they were looking good for a top 10 place after starting off 17th in the specials.
By now the sun had crept out, but there was no wind to speak of, so the dust was billowing and hanging around. Whitehouse and Carlson making their own clouds.
It was becoming a cloudless day though, but with a silver lining for championship leaders Cully and Quinton Silwalt, up from 31st after a dismal prologue. Pace aplenty.
Hendrik Kraai was next, and his Keymax Properties bat was a good 4 minutes to the better in Class B. But that wasn't enough of a gap to relax at all.
And in Class D, the leaders, as they were from the start, the Zermattens, who were also just a few minutes ahead of their pursuers.
Second in Class B, it was Lo de Brain and Rudy Brits in the Ruacon bat, keeping it together well.
And in Class B, it was the brothers Johan and Etienne Besaidnout in their bat, but the race was certainly on here.
Defending Class D champions, Cliff Weichelt and Nick Elson at Toyota, were trying to keep the Zermattens within eyeshot.
And at the same time working on maintaining a gap over this husband and wife pairing, Ramon and Maurette Besaidnout in their Toyota Hilux. In Class D, the gloves were off.
They certainly were, and in the Class E battle for supremacy, Dion Fenter and Ian Palmer were setting the pace, but only had a few minutes to spare over the chasers.
The dust was getting in everywhere, but luckily not in our cameraman's eye. In there, he somehow found second place in the E-Class race. Dewald van Breda and Johan de Toy keeping Fenter and Palmer in their sights.
After almost 160 kilometers of racing on the first loop, Forson Pitchford had gone from 7th to 1st with a blistering drive, while Grobler and Moore were also looking menacing.
And in the specials, it was indeed a special effort from Variawa and Rousseau, from 6th to 2nd in the most difficult passing conditions imaginable. The Harpers had stalled in a deep riverbed but had recovered to 3rd place.
And at the DSP, there was just 15 minutes for refuel, repair and remove it.
A tired-looking Taylor had to cut the Toyota some slack on the way into DSP.
How's it going, Anthony? That's going well. We've got a bit of an overheating problem now the last 10K, so I had to back it off a bit.
But yeah, so far so good. I'm enjoying the route. It's nice. It's well marked. Let's just bring it home now.
Well behaving so far?
Yeah, it's behaving very well. I must say the guys have done a superb job prepping it. No problems. Robin's doing an excellent job as well in the nav side. And yeah, let's just get it home and with the 1-2 finish.
And Grobler had dust coming out of his ears.
Nee, alright, dankie man. Ons net verwoed stof gehad. Maar ons gaan lekker. Hulle het ons bietjie lank opgehou. Ons het seker maklik 2 minute of so verloor agter die ouens omdat ons kort in die stof was. Die wind het so hier en daar gehelp en so aan, maar dit gaan goed sover. Die kar is in een stuk, hy loop baie lekker en ja, ons het nog lekker amper 200 km om te gaan. So baie kan gebeur. Ons gaan maar net kyk wat gebeur vorentoe.
Berthold and Vermeulen appeared next, 4 minutes to the better, and ready to take on refreshments for them and the car.
The Harpers were ready to step into the breach one more time.
Yeah, it's been good fun. We've had an interesting time out there. Andre's just telling me all the time, easy, keep it straight, easy, keep it straight. I said to him like this, I don't know if we'll win Class B. We seem to be 4 minutes ahead of the next Class A car, so we're just going to try and do the same thing again next lap.
Is it tough out there?
It's very tough out there. It's very tight, it's rough, it's treacherous, well marked, well organized event, but it is definitely a tough event, and for the guys to bring it home later is going to be a challenge.
The Ford squad were effective in the pits area. They had to try and find a misfire, which had occurred about halfway through the first loop.
It's been fine. We just we were after the riverbed. We had a bad misfire. We had to stop for a while, try and sort it out. But it came right on its own. But we lost probably about 8 minutes, I think.
Some of the steeds came limping home, while others had virtually no repairs necessary.
Century's Rudy Balzar and his driver Mark Corbett did some great driving.
Yeah, it's not been bad. The river was a bit rough through the water and we had a puncture, and other than that it's been going well.
Car also still going well?
Oh, going very well. No problems. So the puncture took us a bit long to change.
Very businesslike, and Rudy certainly had that look in his eye. DSP is always a bee-like hive of activity, and in Limpopo it was no different. For Des Bezuidenhout in third, the Adenko bat in Class B, life could just not be better.
Very much. A lovely day. Quick, a lot of dust, but it's nice.
The route very tough?
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Nice and cool though.
Well, yeah, after all the river crossings, we've been having an aircon unit, yeah.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA, overcoming all obstacles.
Well, without contradicting our sponsors, not always. This was a bridge too far, and the cavalry was called in to do the necessary rescue. It was a race of attrition, as at this stage, almost 40% of the competitors were forced to quit.
Out on the road, Cronje and Birken had started off like a house on fire after DSP and were launching an attack for the podium.
Their stablemate Taylor was leading after the first loop, but didn't start the second one due to mechanical failure. And back at Stuck Gully, the escape shenanigans were still going strong.
Now from Stuck Gully, the Harpers were intent on grabbing a podium in the special vehicle category, and were on track to do so. But it needed some fine driving and a stay-out-of-trouble approach.
That's what Grobler has been doing for more than 30 years, actually, Ro.
The Nissan team were looking for win number 4, and that's in a row, as well as their 49th victory in 62 races since 2001.
What a record, while Berthold himself was looking to just record a solid drive over the second loop.
Force and Pitchford were trying to rescue their bad prologue and to make some good progress.
And that they certainly were doing. Barayawa was racing well in second place after stating at the start that they only wanted a podium, and if a win came, it would be a bonus.
Yeah, I'm sure they didn't want to win. In third in the special vehicle class, it was still Corbett and Balzar who were ultra steady. Not flashy, just effective and quick.
Woolridge and Scholdhammer still ruining their 8-minute time loss with third and trying to marry aggression and containment all at the same time.
The Mickerin XL dealer team, the De Bruins, had zoomed up the standings from 9th to 4th and still climbing.
And they were making the lads in front of them just a bit nervous.
And then the biggest zoomer of the whole day, the Sulvolts, from 16th and up into the top 5. That's a whole lot of shaking going on.
Grenier and Birkin were still first on the road, but had lost time to Voss and Grobler in third in the production car class. And they were chasing for all they were worth. It was a Nissan 1-2 ahead of them, though. Bertolt and Vermeulen slotted into 5th, but followed closely by Variawa and Rousseau in that big porter of theirs. And the top 10 rounded up by Corbett and Balzar, who still had the Century Properties racing bat going in the right direction. On the home stretch, Grobler had gone past his stablemate Voss after Duncan and Ralph were forced to stop and try to repair broken shocks. That, in turn, caused a broken brake pipe.
Bertolt was letting her rip. And they almost lost it there. But the Atlas Copco Porter is big and strong, and they sped on, leading Class A handsomely.
They were just less than 4 minutes ahead of Variawa and Rousseau, who themselves had passed 9 cars in the past 300 kilometers.
And the Corbett-Balzar combination was holding station in 4th in the specials. The rest could come at them if they so desired. They were hanging tough. Lady Luck played her part, though. When 30 k's from the end, they broke a left rear drive sharp and retired.
The big blue and white oval is always a big favorite brand out there, and Woolridge and Scholdhammer delighted the fans with an excellent drive into third in the production vehicle battle.
But their rear mirrors were starting to fill with this picture. The De Bruins were on the charge, on the second lap, from 20th overall and slapping it into 3rd overall.
Matthews and Smith had also got stuck in a riverbed, but extricated themselves and were into the top 10 as well.
Voss had lost a whole 18 minutes, but was still giving it stick.
Hoping and praying to salvage some points, no doubt.
With a rather clean-looking Regent racing bat in the hands of Marsh and Groenewald, 6th in Class A.
The Class P lead had not changed hands, and the brothers White were back in control and having their best run of the year.
Another team that bided their time was the Sulvolts, the biggest movers and groovers of the Limpopo 400. From 31st overall into the top 10, and also still overtaking like mad.
Another big upset of the day, the unheralded John Moore and Tom Klaassen. A huge surge saw them go from 15th in class to 5th, and eager for a lot more.
Speaking of eager, Tomset and Haviland were also in on the giant killing act. The Toyota was holding up, and they were too. Into 6th place they went.
Cry and Vogt had eked out a 7 minutes of lead in Class B and were avoiding any costly mistakes.
Yeah, even though the Keymax bat was sounding a little stuttery.
Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst taking 7th in the SP class, racing with a cracked windscreen, courtesy of an overhanging branch that leapt into their path. They too had got stuck in a river following that.
That's got to hurt. Now back to Class B, and in 2nd here it was De Bruin and Brits, who were still 7 minutes behind, but chasing as hard as they could as the K's started to run out.
And Henry and Maurice Matten were counting them down in the leading Class D by almost a quarter of an hour. They just wanted to coax the Nissan home.
And 3rd in Class B, Bez Bezuidenhout and Johan de Bruin, who were exactly 12 minutes off the lead.
And some parts of the course really needed you to concentrate on the technical stuff. Van Tonda and co-driver Guapo were setting up the Unifreight Ford for a fine 8th place in the SP class.
While Class P's second placer, the brothers Bezuidenhout, were almost half an hour back, but steady as a rock in the Adenko bat.
And back in Class D, Ramon and Maret Bezuidenhout from Damas proved that they're getting better with each outing. Second, 13 minutes behind the Zermattens in their Toyota.
And the leaders in Class E, Fenter and Farmer, had outlasted all comers in their 4x4 Mega World entry to win in 7 hours and 2 minutes.
That gave them just more than 6 minutes over their nearest rivals Van Breda and De Toy in the multicolored Potch Plastics Toyota Hilux.
Mark Ferguson and Craig West had to take an enforced stop and repair, but they got it going to take 12th in the SP class.
Even though it didn't look like it right here. And in Class E, there was a 3rd place waiting for Jannie Visser and Joks Leroux, who have been having a fine 2008 season.
While Class B's Giel Nel and Dion de Kock in the Look Africa Zarko Truggy filled 4th place, almost an hour back.
Whitehouse and Carlson were the last finishers home in Class A after having a litany of problems, but at least scoring some points.
Mullerland Toyota's SP entry featuring Johan and Werner Horn in their Land Cruiser took 9th place.
With Ferreira and Kotzer taking 10th in a second Land Cruiser, more than 2 hours in arrears.
And in the IDM Cement entry, Jaco Swanepoel and Keith Solomon finished 11th.
The local encouragement was appreciated by all. The Raysonic squad, Kutsiela Beskachny and Johan Gerber, were the last official finishers in Class D, taking 3rd, 24 minutes behind, after a very tough event for all concerned.
The checkered flag, though, was waiting to be waved first, with the Nissan of Hannes Grobler and Johan Moore. After just 6 hours and 7 minutes, it was win number 25 for Grobler, and for Nissan, an unprecedented 49th victory in 62 races since 2001.
Yeah, we're very pleased at the moment. We don't exactly know where the other guys are. We arrived here first, and we'll just see in the next few minutes what time the other guys are going to be in. But yeah, we'll see.
Did you have any problems out there?
Not really, except we had 2 specials in front of us that wrong slotted a few times, and they cost us quite a few minutes because we were catching them, and then they just got into the road ahead of us. So it was just dust, but further the car and John was excellent.
Bertolt and Vermeulen got their second victory of 2008.
It absolutely does. In Polokwane here, I've had success before, and it looks like we got success again today. We seem to have just managed to close the gap on Nick Harper, but he made my day a very tough one. He made me work hard for it today.
What were the conditions like out there?
It was very rough. It was a treacherous race. It was a fantastic off-road route. It was well marked. But you had to really mind your P's and Q's and keep the car on the straight and narrow. Otherwise, it wasn't coming home in one piece.
And have a look at this. Birkin and Cronje again had to limp home.
Yeah, we were actually doing quite well. We kept the gap to Hannes, but unfortunately about 30 k's from the end, we broke the shocks on the left front, as you can sort of see behind me. It's a bit of a tough call as to whether we were going to crawl home or whether we were going to pack it up. And we said, no, we're going to crawl home. Not exactly sure where we've ended up in SP. There seems to be quite a large gap to the other guys, so hopefully we'll score some good points. Maybe a 3rd or so. We hope so anyway.
It was in fact a 3rd in the SP class. For Ford's Neil Woolridge, it wasn't a great day, but they still got a podium place in the Ranger.
I can't say it's been my best day, eh? it's been a hard, rough race, and I must say I just battled to get into it on the second lap. We developed a very, very bad misfire on the first lap. The moment the car saw any water, it wouldn't go. In fact, we stopped. We checked everything, checked all the plug leads and checked everything, and we thought, well, that was our race, you know. So we thought, well, we'll just carry on slowly, because if you kept it in a high gear, it would pull a little bit. So we kept going, and then about 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers later, it cleared itself. So at the halfway point, we sprayed some silicone all over the different connections and things like that. And then the last lap, we were just very, very careful. Through the water, we just very, very slowly. Nearly got stuck once because we went too slowly. But yeah, at least we're here and we got some more points in the bag. Yeah, good to be back.
Variawa had a great run in the Total Motorsport Porter and scored vital championship points.
I think today worked out for us well. We came here not to win a race. We came here just to finish a race and to finish on a podium to secure good points for our championship, and I think today that's what happened, you know.
Henry Zamatin was 17th overall and first in Class D.
Yeah, thanks to BB Auto in Polokwane, we managed to borrow their hoist, and we owe his workshop manager's wife a huge apology. He kept saying to her, don't worry, they nearly finished. I think he got home at 1:30 for a function. I think he's in such trouble. But it was really nice of them to leave the workshop open so we could work on it all night through. Managed to solve all the problems. It's going sweet now.
But not quite as sweet as the bubbly for Grobler and Moore. A back-to-back victory and a huge leap up the championship log.
The De Bruins had a barnstorming finish to leap from 9th to 2nd, while Mr. Consistent brought the Ford home for valuable points too.
And in the specials, Berthold's ears could hardly stop the smile. A big win for the Atlas Copco Porter. And the turquoise team made it 2 on the podium as the Harpers held on for 3rd. But it was the Silvolts who had also supplied a great come-from-behind drive for 4th.
For a great production, our grateful thanks to BSB Printers, Capricorn FM and Limpopo Casino and Entertainment World.
It's a battle that is wide open at the top, and it'll be a fight to the 6th and last race of the season.
With the Silvolts, Variawa Rousseau and Martian Prunevalt all finishing in the points, the overall and Class A championship remains a 3-horse race. With just 2 races left, it's going to be a tense finish to the season.
Until next time, you keep it on the road,
and we'll keep it off-road.
That was the ultimate test, the ABSA Off-Road Championship. Now